I never thought dying would feel like this, like scratching at the inside of my own skin, trapped in a body that wasn't mine, while my real one danced through the world above me, sipping champagne at my expense. The fall down those stairs wasn't an accident. It was my family's masterpiece of neglect, a shove disguised as concern. And in that moment, as my grandfather's brittle bones cracked under me, our souls tangled in a freak twist no one could explain. But when the dust settled and the morphine haze lifted, I wasn't Demi anymore. Not in the mirror, not in the hospital bed, and the revenge that burned hotter than the pain was the only thing keeping this borrowed heart beating. They say grief makes monsters of us all, but what they don't tell you is how it rewires your brain until mercy feels like suicide. I'd always been the good granddaughter, the one who showed up with takeout on Sundays while my cousins scrolled Instagram from their McMansions in the suburbs. Grandpa, Elias Hawthorne, built the family fortune from nothing, a self-made kingpin in New York's cutthroat real estate game back when concrete jungles were just ambitious dreams. He clawed his way up from the Bronx tenements, turning derelict warehouses into luxury lofts, amassing a portfolio that could buy half of Manhattan. But empires crumble, and so did he, Alzheimer's eating at his edges like rust on rebar, turning the man who once closed billion-dollar deals into a rambling ghost who mistook me for my dead mother. That's where the betrayal started, buried deeper than any coffin. Mom died when I was 10, car accident, they said, swerving off the Taconic Parkway in a storm. Dad followed a year later, overdose on painkillers, the kind that whisper sweet nothings before the lights go out. Grandpa raised me after that, in his sprawling brownstone on the Upper East Side, walls lined with oil paintings of forgotten tycoons and shelves groaning under first editions he never had time to read. He was my anchor, the one who taught me to spot a lie in a broker's smile, to negotiate like your life depended on it, because in this city, it does. But the family? My Aunt Lydia, Uncle Victor, their spoiled spawn, cousins Chase and Brooke, they circled like sharks when the doctors dropped the bomb. 6 months, tops. Not because they loved him less, but because they loved his money more. It was Lydia who orchestrated the first cut. Sharp as her bob haircut, she was the queen bee of Hawthorne Holdings, the boardroom viper who'd clawed her way to CFO on Grandpa's coattails. He's a liability now, Elias, she'd hiss during those sterile family meetings in his study, her voice dripping with that faux concern that reeks of boardroom bourbon. Victor, her limp-dicked brother, nodded like a bobblehead, his construction firm bleeding cash from bad loans. They wanted the inheritance unlocked early, power of attorney, a quiet nursing home dump, anything to speed the clock. I fought them tooth and nail, quitting my junior analyst gig at a boutique firm to become his full-time shadow. But shadows don't vote shares, and they held the majority. The swap happened on a Tuesday, the kind of gray October day in New York where the Hudson smells like regret and the wind off the river bites like bad news. Grandpa had been slipping faster. Nights where he'd wander the brownstone muttering about the accident, eyes wild like he was reliving ghosts. The doctors at Mount Sinai suggested an experimental trial, some neural mapping cocktail, meant to preserve memories in the fog of dementia. It's cutting edge, the white-coated kid assured us. All Ivy League polish and zero bedside soul. Reconnects the synapses, buys time. Desperation makes suckers of us all, so I wheeled him in, holding his liver-spotted hand as they hooked us both up. Me as the control, they said, to baseline his brain against a healthy one. The needle went in smooth, a cold burn spidering up my arm. Then the alarms. Lights flickering like a bad acid trip, nurses scrambling as monitors flatlined in tandem. I remember the pull, like being yanked backward through molasses, my vision tunneling into Elias Hawthorne's milky blues. When I came to, the room spun, and the hands clutching the bedsheet were gnarled, veins like twisted roots under translucent skin.
Demi?
My voice, his voice, croaked out, gravelly from decades of unfiltered camels. In the mirror across the ward, my own face stared back, pale and confused, but it was Grandpa inside, blinking those big green eyes that used to sparkle with mischief. We'd swapped. Clean, inexplicable, like God himself had hit copy-paste on our souls. The The doctors called it a glitch, a 1 in a billion synaptic echo. Reversible, maybe, with time and more drugs. But in the chaos, no one believed us at first. 2 patients raving about body theft like we'd shared a blunt. Lydia swept in like a storm front, all crisp Chanel and calculated tears. Poor Demi, the stress, she cooed, signing the discharge papers for Elias, me, to a hospice in Queens, far from the brownstones' prying eyes. Grandpa, in my body, tried to fight, his words tumbling out in my soft lilt. "It's me, Lydia. Listen." But she shushed him, prescribed sedatives, and by week's end, he was recovering at her Westchester estate, under family care. I was Elias Hawthorne now, 84 and fading, shuttled to a beige box of a room that smelled like bleach and broken dreams. The hospice was a warehouse for the unwanted, moans echoing down halls like a bad echo chamber, orderlies more interested in TikTok than vitals. No visitors the first week. No calls. Just the drip of N4 and the slow realization that this was their plan all along. Let the old man wither, claim diminished capacity, rewrite the will. I'd borne their sins before, taking the fall for Chase's coke-fueled joyride that totaled Dad's vintage Mustang when we were teens, the cops pinning DUI on me because I was sober and small enough to bully. Grandpa covered it, pulled strings, but the scar lingered, a juvie record that killed my scholarship dreams. Now, in his skin, I felt every buried grudge resurface, hot as asphalt in July. Revenge isn't a light switch, it's a slow fuse, lit in the quiet hours when the pain meds wear off and the walls close in. I started small, feigning lucidity to the social worker, dropping hints about irregularities in the family trust. She nodded politely, made notes, but Lydia's lawyers were faster, filing for guardianship on grounds of my deterioration. Grandpa, meanwhile, was unraveling in my body. Snippets came through a smuggled burner phone I'd hidden in his effects, texts from him, frantic and fragmented. "They're drugging me, kiddo. Say, I'm unstable. The accident. Your parents." It wasn't what they said. My blood ran cold. What accident? The official story was clean. Drunk driver, tragedy, end of. But Elias Hawthorne didn't build an empire on clean stories. The secret clawed its way out over late-night calls, his voice, my voice, whispering through static. 25 years ago, Lydia and Victor, deep in debt from Victor's gambling spiral, cooked up a scheme, stage a hit on the family to cash in on insurance. But it backfired. Dad, suspicious, confronted them. They panicked, laced his scotch with fentanyl, made it look like suicide. Mom, piecing it together, threatened to go public. So they ran her off the road, brakes cut clean, witnesses bought off with Hawthorne cash. Grandpa found out too late, covered it all, hushed the investigators, buried the evidence in offshore accounts to protect the name, the legacy. He'd borne the guilt alone, confessing fragments in his dementia haze, but now, trapped in my 28-year-old frame, he was piecing it together fresh, rage sharpening his borrowed mind. I was the scapegoat they'd always needed, young, expendable, loyal to the grave. But graves have ears, and this one was mine. From the hospice bed, I plodded like a ghost in the machine. First, the will. I'd signed a codicil months back, pre-swap, notarized and ironclad, leaving the bulk to a trust for me. Demi's name, not Elias's shell. They thought me too addled to remember, but I whispered reminders to the notary over tea, casual as confiding a recipe. Second, the proof. Grandpa smuggled files from Lydia's safe, digital ghosts of tampered police reports, wire transfers to a crooked detective named Kowalski, now retired in Florida, with a yacht that screamed bribe. Third, the public play. The funeral. They'd push for it soon, a quiet affair to seal the narrative of a peaceful passing. I'd let them. The days blurred into a fevered dream of atrophy. Muscles wasted, skin sagged, but my mind, Demi's mind, stayed sharp, fueled by black market caffeine smuggled by a sympathetic nurse named Rosa. She believed my ravings after I slipped her 100 from Grandpa's hidden stash. "You're fighting demons, abuelo," she'd say, crossing herself. Outside, New York churned on, headlines about real estate bubbles bursting, Hawthorne Holdings stock dipping as rumors of instability leaked. Lydia's doing, no doubt, shorting the shares to buy low post-mortem. Victor drowned his nerves in scotch at the Oak Room, cousins partying like the inheritance was already Venmo'd. Grandpa held the fort in Westchester, playing the grieving granddaughter, attending therapy sessions, nodding through grief counseling, laced with benzos. He fed me intel, Lydia's affair with the board chairman, Victor's side hustle laundering cash through fake flips. Ammo for the war. By November, the endgame loomed. The hospice called it comfort measures only. They prepped the paperwork, scheduled the service at Riverside Memorial, that gilded crypt for the elite where Rockefellers and Rothschilds send off their own. Invites went out, sparse, selective. Family, a few old business sharks, no press. Intimate, Lydia purred over the phone to the director, her voice tinny through the speaker. I'd bribed an orderly to install. Grandpa confirmed. He'd be there, in my body, seated front row. The picture of filial piety. The twist? I'd be there too, in the box, wired to a hidden mic, heart monitor rigged to flatline on cue. Rose's nephew, a medtech dropout, handled the hacks for a cut of the chaos to come. The night before, doubt gnawed like bedsores. Was this mercy or madness? Exposing them meant torching the family, the fortune, the fragile threads holding us together. Grandpa's last text. Do it for your folks, kid. Truth's the only inheritance worth a damn. Sleep came fitful, dreams of Mom's laugh echoing in the brownstone, Dad's rough hugs after Little League losses. I'd borne their deaths as accidents, a cosmic joke on a fatherless girl. But murder? Covered by blood money? It twisted the knife, made the swap feel like fate's cruel gift, a second chance to rewrite the ending. Dawn broke cold, the ambulance ride a blur of sirens and strangers. They laid me out in the prep room, Elias Hawthorne's husk dressed in his best Brooks Brothers, tie knotted tight as a noose. The makeup artist powdered the wrinkles, but couldn't hide the fire in eyes that were mine. As they wheeled me in, the chapel hushed, stained glass filtering November gray into somber blues, organ droning like a dirge from hell. 50 souls scattered in pews, Lydia front and center, pearls choking her neck like guilt, Victor fidgeting with his cufflinks, sweat beading despite the chill, Chase and Brooke scrolling discreetly, more interested in likes than loss. Grandpa, my face a mask of sorrow, sat rigid beside Lydia, hands clasped to hide the tremble. The rabbi cleared his throat, eulogy scripted by Lydia's PR firm. Elias was a titan, a builder. Blah, blah, legacy. Then the open mic. Family remarks, starting with the widow. None. So Aunt Lydia rose, voice quivering just right. Dad was everything. We cared for him till the end. Lies, slick as oil on water. Victor next, mumbling platitudes about hard choices in hard times. My turn never came. I was the corpse, after all. But as the rabbi nodded to close, a glitch. The monitors I'd rigged beeped erratic, then flat. Gasps rippled. The casket creaked, remote servo whirring faint, and I sat up. Slow, deliberate, Elias's arthritic joints protesting like old floorboards. The room froze, a collective inhale sucking the air dry. Lydia's mouth gaped, rouge cracking like fault lines. What the? Victor choked, crossing himself despite zero faith. I gripped the casket edge, veins bulging blue, and fixed my gaze, Demi's gaze on them. Lydia. I rasped, Grandpa's timbre laced with my steel. You always said Dad's death was suicide. Funny how the coroner's report you buried says otherwise. Whispers erupted, phones whipped out. Grandpa stood then, my body shedding the sedated slump, voice steady. And Mom? Brakes don't fail on a dry road unless someone's cut. Pandemonium. The rabbi backed away, muttering prayers. Security hovered, but the live streams were already viral. Hawthorne funeral freakout trending before the organ could wheeze its last. I spilled it all, unspooling the thread. The files, the bribes, Kowalski's yacht logs time-stamped to payoffs. You killed them, I said, pointing a trembling finger that somehow carried the weight of 2 lifetimes. For money, for power, and Elias Hawthorne me, covered it to save your rotten hides. Not me, us. The swap hung unspoken, but the proof did the talking, projected via Grandpa's hidden laptop onto the chapel screen. Scans, transfers, Lydia's emails plotting the accident cleanup. Lydia lunged, screeching. He's senile. Delusional. But the damage was done, cops en route, tipped by Rose's call. Victor bolted for the side door, Chase and Brooke scattering like roaches. Grandpa, in my skin, grabbed her arm, green eyes blazing. It's over, sis. 25 years of your shit ends here. She crumpled, wailing, as uniforms swarmed, cuffs clicking like karmic punctuation. In the aftermath, the swap lingered, a medical marvel turned malpractice suit, scientists scrambling for answers. We reversed it weeks later, under heavy sedation, souls snapping back like rubber bands. I woke in my body, 28 and whole, but scarred with echoes, the ache in joints that weren't mine, memories of smokes and deals from a life before mine. The family fractured, Lydia and Victor indicted, facing life for double homicide conspiracy. Cousins cut ties, fleeing to Europe with what scraps they could grab. Hawthorne holdings tanked, but Rose Phoenix like under new blood, me, at the helm, stripping the rot.
Grandpa?
He passed quiet 3 months on, real this time, in the brownstone with me at his side. No funeral fanfare, just a scattering of ashes off the Brooklyn Bridge at dawn, wind carrying him home to the Bronx. The ending? They call it justice, a viral tale of redemption and reckoning. But in quiet moments, staring at my reflection, fully mine again, I wonder, did I avenge them, or just become the monster they made? Truth's a double-edged sword, and in America, it cuts both ways. Some say I was heroic, others, a vengeful witch who torched a dynasty for ghosts.
Me?
I sleep sound, but the debate rages on, because that's the real legacy. Questions that don't quit. The reversal didn't fix everything. Waking up in my own skin felt like shedding a too tight suit, but the itches remained. Phantom pains in knuckles that had never arthritis, a smoker's hack in lungs I'd babbied with yoga and green juices. The hospital discharged us to fanfare. Press vans clogging the Sinai lot, reporters shouting questions like buckshot. Miss Hawthorne, was it a hoax? Mr. Hawthorne, did you fake your death? Grandpa, frail but grinning in his wheelchair, waved them off with a quip. Hell, if I could fake that, I'd fake a winning lottery ticket. I fielded the rest, my voice, mine again, steady as steel beams. Families' secrets die hard. Ours just clawed their way out. Back at the brownstone, the place felt haunted, not by ghosts but by the living wreckage we'd wrought. Couriers delivered summonses daily, SEC probes into insider trading, IRS audits on those offshore nests. Lydia's lawyer, a silver-tongued shark named Hargrove, called first, offering a plea. Settle quiet, Demi. Keep the name clean. I laughed, a bark that echoed off the high ceilings. Clean? Tell that to my parents' graves. Victor tried next, from Riker's holding, voice slurry over the line. Nephew, niece, blood's thicker. Drop it, yeah?
Blood.
The word soured, thick as the fentanyl they'd dosed Dad with. I hung up, blocked the number, and burned the family photo albums in the fireplace, flames devouring smiles from Christmases past, the crackle a symphony of finality. But revenge is a voracious beast, and feeding it left Hollow's nights. I'd pace the study, Grandpa's old throne room, desk scarred from decades of deals, and sift the detritus. Yellowed ledgers from his Bronx hustles, a locked drawer yielding Mom's locket, engraved forever, E. Inside, a tiny photo of her pregnant belly, Dad's hand splayed protective. Tears came then, hot and unbidden, for the girl I'd been, clueless, carrying their sins like a fool's errand. I'd borne the blame for so much. The Mustang crash, sure, but whispers too, family murmurs that Dad's weakness ran in the line, that I was unstable like him. Therapy speak for don't trust the orphan. Now, with the truth bare, I wondered if I'd ever been free, or just a pawn in Elias Hawthorne's grand cover. Grandpa noticed, of course. Post-reversal. He was sharper, the swap like a neural reset, dementia fog lifted, memories crisp as fresh print. We talked for hours over black coffee in the kitchen, Dawn painting the skyline gold. "I did it for you, kid," he confessed one morning, his eyes wet. "Thought burying it kept you safe." Legacy over truth. Safe. The word mocked. I'd lost scholarships, jobs, lovers who bailed when my family drama surfaced. And the swap? That needle, he mused, felt like Judgment Day. Seeing through your eyes. Your fire. Made me wish I'd burned it all sooner. We hugged then, awkward in our reclaimed skins, but it mended something frayed. The trial prep was a circus, American justice in its garish glory, depositions in glass towers, leaks to TMZ painting Lydia as the Ice Queen villain, Victor the bumbling fall guy. I testified first, January chill seeping through the federal courthouse on Foley Square. The room smelled of polished oak and desperation, jury box filled with faces, blue-collar types from Queens, eyeing the Hawthorne name like forbidden fruit. My lawyer, a bulldog named Ramirez from Legal Aid who'd taken the case pro bono for the headlines, coached me. Short, sharp. Let the docs do the heavy lifting. But when I took the stand, Elias's gravel clung to my throat. "They murdered my parents," I said, voice steady, "and made me carry the lie. For 25 years. Cross-exam was Hargrove's blood sport. "Miss Hawthorne," he drawled, adjusting his Rolex, "you're alleging a body swap? Sounds like science fiction. Perhaps grief-induced delusion." Snickers from the gallery. I met his gaze, channeling the old man's boardroom stare. Delusion? Check the hospital logs. Or better, Kowalski's confession, signed last week after the feds froze his accounts. The video played then. The ex-cop, paunchy in a Florida motel, spilling for immunity. Lydia paid me $20K to lose the break report. Victor handled the talk screen, fentanyl traces scrubbed. Gasps, then silence as the pieces clicked. Lydia, in orange jumpsuit that clashed with her highlights, crumbled, sobs echoing like defeat. Victor fared worse, crumbling under his own weight. On the stand, he blubbered about debts to the families, mafia ties from his construction rackets, loan sharks who'd greenlit the hit for collateral. "It was business," he whined, "not personal." The jury didn't buy it, neither did I. Chase and Brooke cut deals, testifying to overhearing the accident talks as kids, flipping for reduced charges, community service, sealed records. Cowards, both, slinking to aunties in Cali with tails tucked. The verdict came swift. Guilty on all counts. Lydia life without parole. Victor 25 to life. Sentencing in March. Rain lashing the windows like applause from the grave. Outside, the scrum waited. Mics thrust like daggers, questions flying. "Do you forgive them, Demi?" Forgive? The word tasted like ash. "Forgiveness is for saints," I shot back, "and this family's fresh out." Grandpa, arm linked in mine, added wry. "Besides, the saints don't pay taxes on empires." Laughter cut the tension, a brief sunbreak. But walking away, the weight settled. Victory, Pyrrhic and ponderous. Hawthorne Holdings teetered, stock at pennies, but I rallied the board. Old lions who'd owed Elias favors, slashing the fat, divesting the dirty deals. By summer, we stabilized, green shoots in the concrete. Yet the controversies brewed, dark undercurrents in op-eds and podcasts. Vigilante justice? One Times piece queried, painting me as the swap-sparked sorceress who'd rigged a funeral for fame. Online, the debates raged. Team Demi hailed me as Avenger-in-Chief, memes of me rising from the casket like a zombie queen. Hawthorne hoaxers called it a grift, siblings suing for defamation, claiming the swap was staged with deepfakes and actors. Therapy helped unpack it. Weekly sessions with Dr. Hale, a no-nonsense shrink from Harlem who didn't flinch at the weird. "You didn't just expose them," she said one afternoon, rain pattering the window like impatient fingers. "You exposed yourself. What now when the mask is off?"
What now?
I dated tentatively. A barista named Theo with tattoos and trust issues. Nights tangled in his walk-up off Bedford. But trust? Shattered like brake lines. Every argument echoed Lydia's barbs. Every silence, Victor's wheedles. Grandpa filled the gaps. Our bond reforged in the fire. Chess games in the study, him teaching me the old cons, me showing him Spotify playlists of trap beats that made him chuckle. Your generation's wild, kid. But his cough worsened. The swaps toll exacting late fees. Lungs scarred from my phantom habits, or his real ones bleeding through. By fall, the empire hummed anew. Eco-lofts in the Bronx, honoring his roots, profits funneled to victims' funds for families like mine, orphaned by accidents. Awards rolled in Women in Business Gala, a TED Talk on truth as inheritance that went mega-viral. Standing ovations, but in the green room mirror, I saw Elias's eyes staring back, wary. The twist lingered. What if the swap wasn't glitch, but grace? A chance to live his regrets, bear his burdens. Or curse, a forced empathy that bound us tighter than blood. Then, the letter came, postmarked Rikers, Lydia's scrawl jagged as barbed wire. You think you won? Read this. Enclosed, a yellowed envelope, Grandpa's handwriting, dated the week of the crash. To my girl, if I go first, know I pulled the trigger.
Not them. Me.
Heart slamming, I confronted him that night, firelight dancing shadows on his face. The accident, I demanded. You wrote this. He sighed, old bones settling. Partial truth, kid. I knew about the debts, confronted them. But the scotch? My idea, laced it myself, told Vic it was clean.
Mom.
I tailed her, cut the lines to stop her running to the cops with proof of the laundering.
Merci qu'il, demi.
To save us all. The room tilted, world inverting like the swap all over. Betrayal, reversed, not theirs alone, but his. The Titan, felled by his own hand. Why cover? I whispered, rage and grief warring. Legacy, he said simply. And love. For you. I stormed out, walking the blocks till dawn, Hudson lapping black secrets. Forgive? The beast roared anew. Dawn found me on a bench by the river, city awakening in fits of honks and steam from manhole covers, New York's indifferent pulse, mocking my unraveling. The letter burned in my pocket, Elias's confession a grenade with the pin half-pulled. Mercy kills. What a load of patriarchal bullshit, dressing murder in chivalry's cloak. I'd avenged phantoms, torched kin for a lie Grandpa himself scripted. The swap? Maybe not fate's gift, but his final con. Trapping me in his skin to feel the weight, absolve him by proxy. Rage boiled, hot as the coffee I bought from a cart, scalding my tongue like punishment. Back home, he waited in the study, chessboard reset, pawns in starting ranks. Talk, I said, slamming the door. No preamble, American direct, no tea-sipping dances. He nodded, king me in the game of truths. It started with Victor's mess, he began, voice steady as rebar. Poker debts to the Gambinos, 50 grand snowballing to $500,000. Lydia panicked. Floated insurance on you kids. Accidents happen. I shut it down, but they twisted it. Target me instead, stage a fall. But Dad sniffed the rot, confronted Victor at the site of a new development, some Jersey warehouse flip. Your brother's drowning us, Dad yelled, per Elias's recount. Victor called Lydia, who spiked the flask Dad always carried. Handed it over like a peace offering, Grandpa said, eyes distant. I walked in late, saw the slump. Thought it was heart attack, his history. Covered to buy time, bury the evidence before the vulture circled. Mom, though, that's where his handprint stained deepest. She'd found the flask in Victor's trash, Tuck's traces screaming foul. Came to me raging, he continued, fingers drumming the board like Morse for regret. Said she'd go to the DA, blow the empire. He followed her that night, tailing her Volvo onto the parkway. Storm raging, wipers slapping like accusations. I pulled ahead, bumped her fender to force the stop. Then the shears, quick snip on the lines. Told her it was to scare, make her turn back.
But the skid.
She overcorrected, plunged. His voice cracked. First time I'd heard Elias Hawthorne break. Called it an anonymous, spun the drunk driver tale. Victor handled the rest, paid off the tow guy, planted the bottle. I paced, floorboards groaning under my steps, his steps once. And you let them walk. Let me think it was fate. He met my glare, unbowed. You were 10, kid. Fatherless, motherless. What good's truth then? I bore it, built walls with the guilt. Hawthorne way, fix it with money, not mea culpas. American dream distilled, capitalism's cold calculus, where bodies pile for the bottom line. I'd borne the echo, juvie for Chase's sins, whispers of my crazy blood, therapy bills stacking like indictments. You made me the mule, I spat. Carried your whole damn pyramid scheme of lies. He didn't deny it. Instead, offered the board. Your move. Checkers, not chess, simple, black and white. I swept it clear, pieces clattering like accusations. No more games. Left him there, door clicking shut like a gavel. The days after were war. Me bunking at Theo's, drowning doubts in craft IPAs and his steady arms. He listened, tattooed fingers tracing my spine as I spilled. Swap, trial, the letter. Sounds like he loved you crooked, Theo said, Brooklyn drawl softening the blow. Doesn't make it right, but human.
Human.
The word stuck, gnawing as I scrolled the fallout. Lydia's prison diaries leaked, painting Grandpa as the puppet master. Victor's appeals citing coercion by Elias. Public devoured it, polls splitting. 52% saw me as hero, 48% tragic patsy in a family farce. Work became refuge, board meetings in glass atriums, me in power suits channeling mom's poise. I greenlit the Bronx Project, affordable units on Grandpa's old stomping grounds, murals of tenement kings where dealers once lurked. Groundbreaking in April, soil turned under spring sun, kids from the projects cheering as if it mended their worlds. Reporters lapped it up. Demi Hawthorne, from funeral firebrand to philanthropist? But philanthropy's just penance in Prada, and mine itched. Grandpa called weekly, voicemails gravelly please. Come home, kid. Finish the board. I deleted them, but the pull tugged, blood's curse, or love's. Rosa reached out too, the nurse turned confidant. Coffee at her Astoria diner, Formica tables sticky, with syrup ghosts. Abuelo's fading fast, she said, eyes kind under fluorescent buzz. Asks for you. Says the swap showed him God, your fight in his bones. I nodded, stirring sugar I didn't take. Showed me the devil in his. She squeezed my hand, calluses from bedpans and burdens. Devils bleed too, Mija. Forgive to free yourself. Easy for her, no empire of bones to rattle. May brought the hearing, Lydia's motion for new trial, claiming Elias's letter as exculpatory, him the killer, them dupes. Courtroom redux, but this time I was spectator, Theo's hand in mine clammy with nerves. Her lawyer waved the envelope like a flag of truce. The patriarch confesses. My client was coerced. The judge, a no-nonsense black woman from Bed-Stuy, arched a brow. Coerced into spiking the flask? Try again, counsel. But the seed planted, doubts in the press, headlines shifting. Hawthorne heirloom, Grandpa's guilt? I testified anyway, voice honed. He confessed to me, but they poured the poison. Don't rewrite history to whitewash yours. Jury deadlocked on the motion, judge denying, life sticks. Lydia's scream echoed down the hall, a banshee's last wail. Outside, Victor's proxy waited. A gaunt cousin twice removed, eyes shifty. He wants to see you, the man muttered, thrusting a card. Before the end. Victor, rotting in Dannemora, upstate's icebox for the irredeemable. I crumpled it, but Theo fished it out.
Go.
Close the circle. Debates raged in my head, controversy incarnate, visiting the monster who'd orphaned me. But closure's a drug, and I was hooked. The drive north was purgatory, throughway unspoiling gray, Adirondacks looming like judgmental sentinels. Prison intake stripped me bare, shoes off, pat-downs probing like distressed fingers. Victor in the booth, orange jumpsuit hanging loose, face a roadmap of regrets. Demi, he croaked, receiver greasy. You look like her. Strong. Flattery, cheap as commissary smokes. Save it, I said. What do you want? He leaned in, breath fogging glass. The truth, whole. Elias. He wasn't the villain. Or not all. After your dad. Guilt ate him. Push the brake thing on us, said it'd fix Mom's threat, make it look like accident on accident. We went along, idiots. But the cut? His hands. My stomach twisted, letters, words warping. You expect absolution? He shook his head, eyes hollow.
Nah, just.
Tell the boys, Chase, Brooke, I'm sorry.
And you.
For the crash, pinning it. Thought it'd toughen you. Toughen. Like grinding glass into wounds. I hung up silent, guards escorting me out to spring air that tasted like freedom's lie. Theo waited in the lot, arms open.
Done.
Halfway, I murmured, collapse into him. Back in the city, confrontation brewed. Grandpa'd worsened, bedbound now, oxygen hissing like accusations. I went alone, brownstone echoing empty. He looked small, shrunk into the man he'd buried under suits and swagger. Victor, he guessed, Weiss punctuating. I nodded, pulling the letter. You played God. With all of us. He coughed, phlegm speckling sheets. Tried to. Failed spectacular. The full tale tumbled. How guilt post-dad drove the mom fix. Victor and Lydia, reluctant tools. Thought it'd end the spiral. Save the name, for you.
For me.
The ultimate controversial decision. Infanticide of truth to birth a legacy. We talked till dusk, shadows lengthening like fingers pointing blame. Forgive, he asked, frail hand seeking mine. I held it, veins mapping a lifetime's detours. Not yet. But I'm here. Mercy, my version staying for the end, not the applause. June sweltered, city a steam bath of tar and tempers, as if the weather conspired to boil old sins to the surface. Grandpa lingered, defiant in decay. Nights eyed read to him from his dog-eared Hemingway, The Old Man and the Sea, irony thick as humidity.
Et de Xucla, Raspi, Santiago Food Marlins.
I fought mirrors. The swap haunted us both, me catching his squint in reflections, him flexing fingers that remembered youth's grip. Doctors marveled. Remission, almost. Like you traded vitality. But trades of costs, his lungs rebelled. Pneumonia setting in like a vengeful ex. The media feast continued, a 24/7 buffet of Hawthorne horrors. Netflix pitched a docuseries, Swap Secrets, The Hawthorne Curse, producers slobbering over reenactments of the funeral rise. I declined, but leaks fed the frenzy. Alleged affair tapes of Lydia's, Victor's jailhouse shank attempt over a card game. Public opinion seesawed, petitions for my knighthood, counter ones decrying trust fund terrorism. At a gala for the Victims' Fund, champagne flutes clinking like fragile truces, a silver-haired dowager cornered me. Brave girl, but destructive. Some graves stay shut for reason. Her words stung, a reminder. Revenge's rippled rounds innocence too. Chase texted then, from his Euro exile. "Cuz, this wrecked us. Mom's dying in there."
Dying.
Poetic or payback. Theo grounded me, our rhythm a bomb. Weekends grilling on his fire escape, skyline twinkling like absolution. "You're building something real," he'd say, flipping burgers, smoke curling prophetic. The Bronx Lofts launched, ribbon cut with local rappers freestyling anthems of ascent, tenants moving in, families like mine once, orphaned by systems, not storms. Profits poured into scholarships, anti-corruption NGOs, a break-check fund for suspicious crashes.
Legacy Remix, Elias S. Empire, Demi-S Remix.
But the beast stirred. Nightmares replayed the swap, falling stairs in dual vision, bodies blurring. Therapy with Dr. Hale dug deeper. You bore their mistakes, now yours. What's the cost of carrying on?
Cost.
Sleepless tallies. Theo proposing over rooftop tacos, ring simple as a smile, but doubt whispering unstable blood. friends drifting, wary of the drama vortex, and Grandpa's decline, each visit a vigil, morphine drips beeping time's theft. July 4th weekend, fireworks cracked like judgments over the East River. We watched from the brownstone balcony, him in a wheelchair bundled against chill, me nursing a beer. Proud, he asked, Booms painting his face fleeting young. Of the fight, yeah. The fallout. Jury's out. He nodded, wise in weariness. That's America, kid. Debatable to the bone. We win some, lose the plot. His hand found mine, grip weak but sure. Love you, Demi. For seeing me true. Tears mixed with rain, storm breaking, cleansing. Love you too, old man. Crooked and all. He slipped that night, quiet as a deal closing. Monitors silent, just gone. Heart giving what the swap couldn't steal. Funeral small, his way. Riverside again, but no spectacle. Just me, Theo, Rosa, a rabbi who skipped the platitudes. I spoke first, voice mine unborrowed. Elias Hawthorne wasn't saint or sinner. Builder, breaker, bearer of too much. He gave me everything, and taught me to burn what didn't fit. No casket rise, no viral gasp, just truth, plain as a Bronx dawn. Ashes scattered next day, Brooklyn Bridge winds whipping them free. Theo held me as gulls wheeled, circle closing. The ending? Open, like the skyline. Lydia passed in August, cancer quick as karma, her last letter to me. Hate me, but know I loved him once. Twisted, like us. Victor got paroled early, 2030 maybe, gray and ghostly. Cousins? Strangers. Bonds severed clean.
Me?
CEO by fall. Empire lean and lithe. Theo's ring on my finger a promise against the pull of solitude. The swap's echo fades, body mine. Soul scarred but sovereign. Debate lingers. Was I avenger or enabler? Justice's blade or family's noose? Podcasts parse it, books brew. Swapped vengeance, a Hawthorne reckoning. Some hail the happy close. Orphan to overlord, love amid the lies. Others decry the tragedy, dynasty dust, truths that topple thrones.
Me?
I walk the brownstone halls, mom's locket around my neck, and choose both. Because in America's grand, gritty script, revenge isn't win or lose. It's the rewrite that keeps us writing. And damn if it doesn't feel alive.